make sure that's verified. It is. Okay, here we go. It begins. I'm on the wrong tab. That's wonderful. Hold on. The instance. Okay, in 3, 2, 1.
The World of Warcraft podcast, so you don't have to. This is The Instance.
Greetings and welcome to The Instance. This is our episode for November 2024. I'm Scott Johnson. That's Bobby Frankenberger. Good morning.
How are you doing, Scott?
I'm good. I guess the people at home don't know it's morning. We're recording this on a Saturday morning, the 23rd, trying to steer clear of Thanksgiving and all that crap.
Mm-hmm,
you know, you got to talk about WoW while you can, I figure. And why not today? And if not us, then who? You know?
Yeah. I'm going to be out of town for Thanksgiving, so as many people do.
Yeah.
It's not something that only the Frankenberger family does, go out of town for Thanksgiving.
No, I feel like it's a pretty common thing, actually.
Yeah.
Some 800... I forgot the number I read. Anyway, large number of Americans traveling this winter.
Isn't it the largest traveling weekend or holiday travel time or something like that?
Year,
at least in the U.S.
I think so. And it's interesting because you'd think that'd be around Christmas, but I think I think people like to be home, and certainly there is travel. But
There's a whole song about it.
There is.
I'll be home.
Whoa. Crooner levels of quality here on the show today. That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, anyway, we're here. We're glad to be here, bringing you some hot WoW takes after a month of not seeing you fine folks. We hope you've all done well. We're a little shook this morning because both Bobby and I co-tanked. He main tanked. I secondarily tanked a very hard heroic fight last night. We got to Queen Ansarek, and after a pretty interesting couple of weeks of trying to get Silken Court heroic down, we finally did, and we did it without too much in terms of not cheats, but we didn't have to use the rune. We didn't have to do some other stuff. We made it through our final. In fact, our raid leader Tanner was about to go, "We're using these runes if we can't get this pull," and we're like, I don't know if that motivated people or what happened there, but we got it. And got it pretty efficiently. So took down those two chucklehead buttholes and then got to Queen Ansarek. And let me just say, the first 5 seconds of that fight is a nightmare. We're going to get all into that later in our hardcore segment today. But, I mean, Bobby, I was warned that it was going to be a little tricky, but I didn't expect so much tank focus in the first 5 seconds. Or any of that stuff.
I didn't either. And like you said, we'll get into it in a little bit, but it was definitely surprising how much more difficult it got.
I've said this last night, I'll say it again. When she killed her mom, she seemed kind of, not that hard of an ass. Like, you know what I mean? She just kind of... You
got to be a certain kind of cold-hearted to off your mom.
Yeah. Take over the whole ant army, whatever she's got going on down there. Anyway, spiders later and how hard they were. So stick around for that. I thought we'd talk about a couple of things that are a little bit ancillary to WoW at the top of the show today. For example, that Arcane Season 2 hit, and it's great as expected. Season 1 was amazing. This thing's budget was through the roof, but Netflix believed enough in it to at least get a second season out. And it seems to be doing really well, of course, based on League of Legends and, spawned from Riot. Which just leaves me with this question, unrelated to Arcane, other than this got me thinking about it again. But why are we still waiting for this sort of thing from Blizzard? It doesn't make any sense. The kinds of IPs they have. They could do it with just any of them. They could make a Diablo show. They could make a show around StarCraft, and certainly Warcraft, ripe for all kinds of storytelling in this or some other style. You have a theory as to what the hell's going on there?
Well, there were some leaks back in 2020, right? That there was a Diablo show in the works. That it was an anime that they were working on. But
right.
And I think I'm pretty sure. I don't remember the details of it, but I'm pretty sure we learned from Jason Schreier either in the book or maybe it was like an article or something I read. He did a bunch of interviews after he did the Play Nice book about Blizzard. It might have been in one of the interviews, but I know he talked about how Activision Blizzard was sued, or they sued Netflix back in 2020 around the time when that leak came out, and because allegedly they'd broken California law by poaching one of their executives. Netflix did.
Right.
That was the claim, that Netflix poached one of Activision Blizzard's executives. So there's some lawsuit that was happening, and according to or what Jason Schreier seemed to have implied was that broke down any sort of work that they were working on, like any conversations, any whatever that they might have been working on in terms of, because I think it was straight up said that there was a Diablo, an Overwatch, and a Warcraft thing being worked on in Netflix.
Yeah, I think maybe the Warcraft one was third in line in terms of timing, but the Diablo show was supposed to be imminent, and on its tails something with Overwatch. And then Warcraft had been bandied about. But I think I think it may have been in an interview, because I don't think it was the book, but the book does reference that some of these deals were supposed to be worked on. And then there was some confirmation that all of it has been scrapped, either to start over or maybe work with a different, entity other than Netflix or something like that.
Maybe there wasn't enough, I don't know, what do you call it, evidence or enough, maybe he wasn't able to confirm enough or something like that in order to put it in the book. But yeah, I definitely remember that being talked about by him.
Yeah.
And he's the person that you would expect would know some of these things, having spent so much time around Blizzard and talking to people and getting all that information. But
yeah,
you're right that that's what Blizzard does, right? Is story in their properties. Like it's always a big focus, story first, or maybe maybe not first, but it's always, everything is around, they want to make games that have a good story. Even Overwatch, which was ostensibly just I don't mean to use that word in a pejorative sense, but Overwatch was a team shooter, right?
Yeah.
And there was,
it sprang out of Titan, which had tons of story, because that was going to be an MMO. So they had the basis for that, but still, I think that was very important, clearly important when they launched Overwatch. I agree.
Yeah, and that's part of how they develop games, is they want everything to have a really firm foundation in world building and storytelling and everything, no matter what the game is. And so they have all these properties that are ripe for storytelling, and it makes perfect sense that you would do something like this, especially on the tail of the success of things like Arcane.
Yeah.
Which was a game that, I've never played League of Legends, but I never got the sense that there was a strong story there.
No one did.
But they still, but they still told an amazing story around that property.
Yeah.
Arcane. Like I said, I've never played League of Legends, but I loved the first season of Arcane. I'm really looking forward to watching the second season.
Yeah.
And so obviously this can be done.
Sure.
And
it's all about the right writers, the right showrunners. I don't know what the magic sauce is here. This animation style of Arcane is insanely cool. Like, there's a lot of factors here, but clearly it can be done, because it's being done, and it's being done, like you said, for an IP that nobody associates its big story with, or hadn't prior to this. Now it's got some real meaningful lore behind it, and I think League of Legends is benefiting from that. It's a weird direction to get it, though, right? Because what you're starting with all the Warcraft IPs, strong foundational story, and no animated show or otherwise to really show for it, other than a movie in 2016 that was hampered by studio interference and all kinds of other issues. So I think the future's probably bright, but I also know Blizzard is slow to let go of things, or to not have direct control over narrative decisions, that sort of thing. I think maybe they're going to have to let go a little, but also studios who they work with are going to have to do their best to adhere to the spirit of it all, so that mix can function and nobody's going to walk away pissed or whatever. And I think you'll end up with something pretty special if they can just finally, get around to it. The irony of all this, Bobby, you bring up League of Legends, is that their lore, prior to all of this fleshing out of lore on the Riot side, was Warcraft 3 character archetype lore, right?
Right.
Because that game and MOBAs in general were based originally on that. So you had Lich King-like characters, and you had, Arthas-like characters and Thrall-like character, and then a lot of other stuff been inserted since. But that and Dota 2, the basis of those games are these already established archetypes from Warcraft 3. So it continually annoys me and also fascinates me that this many years later, all this other stuff sprung up out of Blizzard's backyard without them being able to stop it, really. And now it feels like they're just a little behind the gun on this other media stuff. And I never picked Riot for that. Man, they did it. And it's amazing. It's so good, you guys. It's so freaking good.
And I think you're right, behind the gun. Like they are, it does feel like they're just behind on this because other people have obviously figured out that serial storytelling works, like making a show. They tried a movie. It didn't do great. And I think we as a culture now, as a society, we probably realize that a 10 episode, 8 episode, whatever, some sort of show, some sort of episodic show is a better format for telling these big stories. Movies are it's harder to get all that into a movie, and I think that they were working on that movie right around when people were making that switch and making those realizations, right?
Yeah.
And so they were behind. It sounds like they were working on this. I think they will. I think something in one of Blizzard's properties is inevitable to be on a streamer somewhere, right? Yeah. But I just think it might not be Netflix now.
Yeah, it may not be Netflix, and that's fine. Prime's got some really great example of stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is Amazon Prime seems to be like they love this. They seem to love this kind of thing. Maybe they'll make a live action one. For something, a live action Diablo would be really. Oh, that'd
be awesome. You do that right, and that could be like a Max property or HBO or something.
Yeah.
Like you go hard R with that sort of thing. But I think like if we're talking just like animation, Prime has done wonders with the Critical Role series. It's arguably the best fantasy series on TV right now. It's that good. Yeah. So if they can do that, base it on they base the thing on a arguably extremely talented group of voice actors doing incredible work with D&D every week. I mean, I don't want to diminish their input here, but and one of them is a close friend, so I definitely don't want to do that. But they made something really special with the animated show around it, and there's no reason. Like at this point, you have to be at Blizzard going, you guys, we just need to freaking fire. We're on aim, and we never fire. We got to fire on this. And now you're flush with Microsoft money potentially, who likes this broader media stuff. They want to branch out. This is some of the hottest IPs they acquired. I think it's going to happen within the next year or so. We're going to see. I think
something. I would be surprised if we didn't hear an announcement in the next year or two because things are starting to settle from this Microsoft acquisition, right?
Right.
And so for a while it was easy to say, well, we're not hearing about this or that because they're in the middle of this transition, and they got to get their footing. Microsoft's got to figure out what does it mean to have Blizzard. Blizzard's got to figure out where do we fit into Microsoft. And I think that as they're feeling that out, there's going to be more room for executives to get together and have these conversations, and those conversations not just be about the logistics of handling this acquisition, right? Like now they're like, okay, we're here, so what's next? What do we talk about next?
Yeah,
and I think they're going to start having those types of conversations.
The current newish. Well, since Microsoft came in, CEO, and I forget her name. Apologies, I don't have it in front of me. But the new Blizzard CEO that reports directly to Microsoft, people on the ground, I can tell you after her visiting there, they really like her. And she's known for being able to not only bridge the gap between, the monolithic Microsoft and the once scrappy Blizzard, but she's also, I think she's really savvy to this kind of like, let's make some deals. But also really, really, the people there really respect her and like her. And that's not been always true in the recent years. We've had some, like people, I'm not outing anybody, but I've talked to people there who really disliked the last guy who went on to, for a while he was a co-CEO. What's his name?
Yeah, I don't even remember his name. I think that's telling.
That might be a little telling. Anyway, they all kind of think he sucked. And prior to that, I just think J. Allen Brack was out of his element. And I think that prior to that, Morhaime had been there 20 years, or plus. So I think it's just a this is as good a time as we're going to get for some of these deals to get made. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You and I watched the 30th year anniversary Warcrafty deal, the video.
Yep.
Watched it live, recorded it. It's on this feed, so if you missed it, go back an episode and you'll find either the audio or the video versions up on YouTube as well, and our Patreon. And this is interesting. The biggest chunk of feedback that we seem to get from that episode, and also some subsequent videos I've done since, was that Blizzard said the reason people are so skeptical about housing is they're all like, well, they said Garrisons was housing. And my answer has always been, no, they didn't. They didn't say it was housing in a traditional sense. It was a base, and it was like a Warcraft 3 base. You had to build it out and add stuff and have, resources, and it was part of the endgame progression and all that. It was meant to be this thing. It wasn't meant to be housing. And they would just come back and go, no, they promised housing and they didn't do it. That's why I don't trust them anymore. So, dude, I went back in time, and I found the following. First of all, here's a screen shot of it. You can see this on my camera here. That is Tom Chilton and crew, which I believe is Ian Hazzikostas, Mumper, Greg Street when he was still there, and then Metzen on the far end.
Wow.
Happy birthday to him, by the way. His birthday was the other day. They were up talking. They were announcing Garrisons, so this would have been 2014, I guess, and describing them on stage. And I want to play a little audio of what Tom Chilton said to start with, but then I'm going to add a little context to it with some additional audio. And at the end of this, I think what people are going to find, at least I did, is this might be a Tom Chilton problem, not a Blizzard problem. All right? And I like that guy. I'm not giving him crap. But anyway, I'll play it. You'll hear it. Here we go.
This is the World of Warcraft version of housing.
All right. I can see from something like that you might say, oh, it's housing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Now.
Well, yes, but it's also, but maybe it's because he said it was housing, Scott.
Right, that's my point. Like, I think that maybe we're taking him saying that as it's clearly a way to say, hey, get excited about a thing we're doing. It's kind of like housing.
I can see why you might have thought this was housing.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna defend it. I think he maybe misspoke there. I really do, because ultimately it was never housing. But he went on to say more that I think adds context. So when he says something like it's Warcraft's version of housing, he didn't really mean it's housing in World of Warcraft. He meant this is how we're going to do a thing where you have a home base, because he went on to say the following.
This isn't a cottage in a faraway instance corner that doesn't actually exist in the world. This is your ability to actually build a base, almost as you do in the RTS games, in the actual world that you will be able to see as you fly through the zones. You'll be able to see it as you go by it. You'll be able to invite your friends to come and see it if they want to. We'll even give you reasons to trade resources, stuff like that. But this is a full-on base.
Okay. That clarification to me says it's housing, but not really, guys. Here's what it really is. It's like an RTS base, and you know how that works, and here's how it's going to work. And it's a little fishy around the edges. Like he says, it's not a cottage that's instant somewhere that nobody else can see. Well, it was still a thing you could see, but it was still instanced. There was just one. The whole world saw the same garrison, and then I mean, no offense, Tom, but it wasn't exactly like put it anywhere you want. And now there's hundreds of these out in the world.
It for sure was instanced. Well, I don't know about instant. It was phased, right? That's the technology.
Phase,
phasing.
Yeah, and it became your own because your data is tied to your phase,
right?
And every player had their own phase of the same structure, either Alliance or Horde. And if you were Alliance, you saw an Alliance structure, and if you were Horde, you saw the other one. One of the complaints was you didn't have a lot of variation there, and that's a bummer. But anyway, I think taking in context his entire conversation, he wasn't saying here's housing. He was saying here's a thing that we think we're going to do that it's housing adjacent, but really it's like a base. Remember Warcraft 1, 2, and 3? Remember those? It's like that. And he was right.
Putting it in the broader context of what was going on at the time is really important too. Context is really key when we talk about what he was saying in that, right? At the time, Warlords was coming out. They were making a shift. They were definitely doubling down on the faction conflict at that time.
Right.
So a lot of this is like, hey, we're getting people pumped for like, how is Warcraft? Warcraft does bases and does, you build up and you go to war with each other and all this kind of thing. So that's what we're talking about. Also at the time, for many, many years already, people had been wanting player housing. I think at the time, WildStar had already come and gone, which definitely had some player housing. Other things that had player housing and other games.
Right.
And people have been clamoring for player housing for a long time. And so he was just, like you said, just using the concept of player housing to get people excited. Like, oh, you've been wanting player housing, knowing in the back of their minds, we're not doing player housing.
Yeah.
Remember that they've been saying for a while, this is just not. I mean,
It's not a
gonna fit in the
Warcraft
game.
thing. It doesn't work,
Yeah.
whatever, or we
Yeah.
haven't
So-
found a way or whatever. And now they're claiming they have. So
Yeah, there are all sorts of excuses as to why they were not going to be doing player housing in World of Warcraft. And so, given that context, plus all the faction divide, focus, plus this new thing, and it's at a BlizzCon, they're trying to get people excited. He's going to mention housing and say like, "Oh, yeah, okay, so you want housing? Well, here's our answer to your housing question. It's not housing, but
yeah,
but
he could have
you
said
know,
it
you-
differently, I think.
yeah."
And maybe he shouldn't
Yeah.
have said it differently because the hype is the hype and you're at BlizzCon and I get it.
He's trying to hype it, yeah.
And for people who think we're splaining this away, we're really not. I just think there's context to it. They didn't come out and say, here's housing, and then screwed it up. They came out and said, here's Warcraft's version of housing, but really it's a base. You got to do it in context. All right. And you can go watch
Yeah,
that video
yeah.
yourselves, and there's way more to it than what I even played. Those were the key bits. But
We're definitely not apologizing for them because they didn't, like you said, they didn't say this is housing and then screw it up. What they did was they said this is garrisons and then they screwed it up.
And then they screwed it up. And garrisons weren't great. Garrisons had so
Yeah.
much potential, and I really dislike garrisons, and a lot of people did. Garrisons are a pain
Yeah.
in the A. Sometimes I go back to mine just to pee on stuff and then leave, So I walk in there and a guy
slash P.
yeah, and a guy's got like a blue exclamation point. He's like, "Champion, we got a job for you." I'm like, "F off, dude. I'm not taking it now. I'm not taking it in 2014. You're still here. Get out of here. This place
How long
sucks."
has that guy been waiting for?
Oh,
you?
forever, dude. Forever. That was also the place that took. There's an item. There's a trinket called GURP's Perfect Arrow. It's named after my character GURP, my hunter, and super honored that they did that. It was great. It was during Pandaria, and it was a usable, important trinket for a hot minute, dropped in a dungeon or something. And it was warlords that reduced that trinket to the little goblin trash vendor bastard that you had in your garrison.
Right.
So every other day I'm getting a GURPS Perfect Arrow. The hell's that about? I was mad about that. It's such a petty thing, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, last expansion, this thing had a proc and it was awesome and it had great stats and everything, and it wasn't best in slot or anything, but it was all right. And then the very next one, it's like, here's a gun model we used in vanilla. Here's some paper or something in the trash. Oh, and there's this trinket. We don't know what that is. I guess that's just trash. You remember the little trash processor guy? That stuff
yeah.
annoyed me. I don't know, to this
But
day.
but people are not wrong to be apprehensive, to be worried about player housing. I'm excited, but I usually am excited about things.
Yeah.
I'm more of an optimist when it comes to these things, but people aren't wrong to be worried about it. There've been lots of things that they've talked about and hyped up and tried and told us that we were going to get one thing and then never worked. One of the things is the mission table that I think about, which coincidentally started with garrisons, right?
Yeah.
They had this whole idea about how awesome the mission table was going to be, and they made tweaks to it every time, and they kept telling us it was going to be this or that and have lots of choice involved and be like a little mini game, and it never quite was.
Did the last
never-
vestiges of that was that in Shadowlands or was that in BFA? I can't remember.
It was in BFA. They got no, it was in Shadowlands. You're right.
I just remember, and yeah, Shadowlands is where I barely touched it because they made it hard. It made it harder, less motivated than ever to use it in that expansion. I just couldn't be bothered. BFA, I used it all the time. I still think there's stuff about that I like. I just don't think they ever made it fun. Like, it was not fun enough.
I mean, you have to balance it with the rest of the game, right? And I think that's what caused a lot of issues. But Garrison's just, I mean, what are people hoping for? They are very careful to say anything about housing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of interviews with Ian Hazzikostas and others, and they are very careful to say. In fact, it was really funny. I was watching the interview with Taliesin, and
Mm.
and he was asking question after question after question about housing, like he should, because that's what he's there to do.
Everyone's asking.
But
right now.
every time Ian was like, I don't want to say too much about housing, but I guess to kind of answer your question, here's a little bit. Then he'd ask another question. He'd be like, but I really don't want to say too much. Like, they really don't want to talk about housing right now.
No, they don't want to let it. They don't want to let it slip, and I get it. I remain.
I think they're worried.
Yeah.
I think they're worried that it's not
Yeah.
gonna that, and they should be worried.
Yeah.
They want a lot of player feedback. They want to hear from people what they want.
Mhm.
So right now is the time to be talking about what do you want from housing?
Yeah.
What are you really worried that they're going to do to it to make it terrible? Because I think they really are listening.
Yeah.
They've shown us very recently, in the past year or two, that they're very receptive now to what players are saying, thinking in the testing, what they want. And I think this is the time to really talk about what you want from housing, and then we'll get to hear more about it. It's a year away according to that timeline.
Yeah.
We're going to get it in about a year. Winter of 2025 is when it's showing that we're going to get that. So start talking about it now. What do you hope we're going to get with housing?
Yeah, and tell us. Key feature in Midnight, really, the Midnight expansion, and I can tell you there are people on the inside that are extremely excited. Well, of course they work there. I understand that they have a bias in this regard, but I haven't heard them as individuals be this excited about a feature in a while. So I remain optimistic, cautiously optimistic. I have some caution about it, but I'm not going to condemn it until I see it. I need to see it.
What do you hope? What are you specifically, Scott, hoping that you'll get to see from housing? Like one feature. We don't need to.
It needs to be
belabor the point.
It needs to be really super customizable. Blizzard they learned early on. Well, I remember when everybody was talking about transmog. I remember Greg telling me this because Greg was still there when people were begging for it, and none of them, not none of them, but a lot of them couldn't believe that people wanted that. That seemed strange to them, that they wanted to essentially have a dress-up doll version of their character that could always change out. And this is early on when these games weren't really even doing that much. It was kind of a newish thing. You were starting to see it in some shooters and skins, and all of that started to crop up, and I think they were hesitant to do it. And what they ended up doing was what I think is the best transmog system in MMOs. It's really, really strong.
It's very good.
What that makes me think is that they'll take what they've learned there, and that means everything from the trading post to rewards in the world that just drop cosmetics now. I mean, I love that stuff when that happens. I love when those are my rewards. Huge fan of the cosmetic stuff in the game. I think they just lean really hard into that and make it so if I want to have a house and I want it to look like the inside of something in Silvermoon, I can. If I want autonomous brooms sweeping around Harry Potter style without any help, magic-wise, great. Do I want it to look like an orc cave? Great. Like, give me... It's that level of customization that I think sinks this or saves this ship, the housing ship. And it can't be too tied to like, well, you got to do these dailies in order to get a table, and make sure you're keeping your rep up with so-and-so, or you won't get the... Like, don't gate it too much. Just give us something fun, and we'll pay for shits. Like, I want the goblin living room set, and that's $10. Well, who am I kidding? It'll be 25. But you know what I mean? Like, I'll pay some money for some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think another thing is you got to make us want to be there. Don't make us have to be there. I think if you make us have to go, then too much anyway, then people are going to push back against that. I had a thought yesterday while I was in the carpool pickup line for my kids at school. I was thinking about housing, and I thought, this is a really cool opportunity. I don't think I've heard anybody talking about this. People have talked about how they don't want this or don't want that. A lot of customization talk. But I think housing would be a really great place for to create meaningful interactions with important NPCs. It'd be a really good storytelling place. So, right now, like if you've got a big quest change you're going to start, or like a new patch comes out and you get like, the thing comes up with a quest that says, hey, go meet Thrall at the bottom of this waterfall behind Orgrimmar.
Yeah.
and then you have like some conversation with them, and he's like, oh, here, Jaina's here too, and we're gonna go and fight some demons. But and then it's always like weird, like go meet, Sour Fang at the grocery store, and you're like, what? It's just always a random place that you got to go meet them, right?
Yeah.
So what if it was your house?
Yeah.
They were coming by to talk to you.
Ooh,
right?
I like this, dude.
And it makes you, because that's another thing that I think players seem to miss, is making you feel really important.
Yeah.
And I think you having a home is a really neat opportunity in the storytelling to make you feel important. You have a place where you live, and now not Varian Wrynn, R.I.P., but Anduin.
Spoilers. He's not here
Yeah,
anymore.
whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops. You have some YouTube commenters that'll really be upset about that.
Oh yeah.
But Anduin Wrynn, there's something so important that he's coming to your house. There's something so important that Khadgar had to open a portal to your house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To come talk to you, to sit down at your table and say, like, look, like say the Midnight expansion is coming. This would be a great thing to open up the housing with, right? Like you've just built yourself a home, and they're like, hey, we're gonna come by and see your house. Housewarming party. Also, shit's going down.
Shit's going down. Yeah, we need you to go. And if you go with this, this thing we're about to fight. See, this is a great way they could do this. This thing we're about to fight, which will just be a quest monster of some sort, nothing too hard. It'll be the first version of the thing you can mount on your wall, and you'll come back to your place and you can mount it.
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
That one day will be the head of Queen Ansurek and her bullshit spider world or whatever, right?
Or like, what a cool way to make like really personal stakes too. Like, what if Xal'atath is really taking it to you? She sends some of her Void emissary army people to come and like F up your house.
Yeah.
Like really like destroy it a little bit. Now, you don't want to destroy someone's home. There'd be another thing you do where you ask some goblins to come and fix it for you real fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that they came to your home, like it just giving you a place to be, I think can really anchor you in the world in a way that is more than just, here's my home that I get to decorate, which is cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Enough of us have played The Sims to know that we like doing that. But also to anchor you in the world in a meaningful way, like that makes you feel anchored to the story that's being told, rather than you're just some nameless adventurer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Champion. Yeah. I feel like that's all true, and I hope that they keep all that in mind. I think there will be a tendency or a temptation on Blizzard's part to make sure that it's gameplay relevant. Yeah. And they do that maybe to excess. Like garrisons didn't need to be. Garrisons were all gameplay relevant, and to a extreme. Like it's tedious.
Yeah,
it
was too much. It was too much.
I think that this is hopefully the right brain set here. Is don't get too worked up about it. Just make it really detailed and give the user tons of options, like tools and the ability to move things in really incremental ways. Like we have examples of that working really well. You mentioned WildStar. They had amazing housing in that game.
Yeah.
It was so good, and nobody's quite matched it. So just come close to that. Customization up the wazoo. Give people real stewardship over what they've built and what it looks like. And don't worry too much that they get that chimney going. I better go talk to Gazlo and do 14 of these things. You know what I mean? Like I understand the temptation. I get it. But you don't need to. Just let us have this cool thing. Let us play dress up and house. That's really what it is. Sorry, fellow adults, but that's what we're doing, and it's fun. It's not me slamming it. And just lean into that. And also maybe some new professions or add-on professions to some that already exist so that leather makers can do couches and, maybe there's a new woodsman or some sort of woodworker thing so we can have a profession that lets us make some cool furniture and get some new mats and all of that stuff. Like the trees will now matter. Can we go chop some trees? You sort of did that with garrisons, but you didn't really, Yeah. So anyway, I think it's going to be.
Yeah, to put a pin on the housing discussion, I think we don't know a lot, but here's what we do know. Here's what I combed around the internet or went around and looked at different interviews and stuff like that. We know very little, but what they have told us is they don't want it to detract from the social aspect of the MMO. They don't want you to be siloed.
Yeah.
So they don't want to repeat. That was a problem with garrisons. They don't want a repeat of that. And they don't want it to be a player power feature. They've explicitly said that. So that's good. That means they're hoping it won't, or they don't want it to tie to anything that is like, you're not going to go need to have a house in order to have a cool thing that makes your armor better,
Right.
or anything like that.
Right.
They don't want it to be a player power feature at all. And the last thing that they said, Holly Longdale did an interview. She said that they really want this to be a permanent feature from here on out. They want it to have a long arc. I think she mentioned the next couple of decades. They are building an entire team around it, so
Damn,
that's
dude.
good.
That's crazy.
I think they really want this to work, and so I think we're gonna see. Don't get too excited in the sense that don't think it's going to be packed full of every feature to start with. I bet they're going to start conservative, and they're gonna hope to get the foundation working well.
like
and then-
like delves or like
Yeah, they're gonna layer things on after that.
yeah, like anything they do. That's what they do.
Yeah.
If anything, they showed that by doing Garrison's top to bottom and having it ready to go was a mistake. They didn't have that kind of iterative take on it. It was the system and it was done and that was it. And when we all found out that they weren't going to carry forward in some way or be iterated upon, that was also a bummer because you thought, well, maybe they could improve a bunch of this, and they didn't. It just kind of went away. So I get the consternation. I get the sourness about it. But let's all be cautiously optimistic. There's a reason that phrase
and
exists.
give them your feedback. And if you're going to give feedback to Blizzard, please don't rage about it. Just they're way more likely to listen if you think it out and give thoughtful feedback.
Yeah.
They want it right now.
That's right.
Ian Hazzikostas has said so. They're open to lots of ideas right now.
Yeah, and look, he has a beard now. I think that guy is chilling out. All right.
Yeah. He's the Ian. He's become the Ian we all want.
It's the one we wanted, if not the one we needed. All right. Time for this.
Big news of the month.
All right, we're going to get to some big stuff that we learned from both the video, but also some of this we knew outside of it, and some of it we know from PTR. We are right around the corner from 11.0.7, which includes the Siren Isle portion of things, a bunch of other stuff. I'll talk about the basics, and then we can kind of get in any minutia we want to here. There will be a brand new currency. Yay, more currencies.
Oh my gosh, only one, Scott?
Well, wait till you get to the gilded version of the same No, just kidding. This whatever. Blizzard's always done this, so it's not a new complaint, but they just have too many currencies. And they don't make a lot of sense. Like, I'm just going to say this about crests, the current state of crests. They just are, they're fine. And once you know what they are, I guess it's fine, but they just don't have anything about them where I go, oh yeah, well, of course I need those for this. Like, I don't have a good lore connection with it. It just sounds like fake stuff that I have to go fakely get and then fakely apply, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't really do it for me. But anyway, new currency. It's called Flame Blessed Iron. All right? Which is, if you're low in that, talk to your doctor. I'll get you some supplements or whatever. You trade for mounts, pets, gear, transmog, all that stuff. So, you know, a new currency for some new stuff. Probably not that crazy. And it will also be a currency you use to trigger major excavations, which is their new event. And this is what we know about that. That's located on the island itself. There are 3 large caves. These caves are sealed off, and each imprisons a horrifying enemy, they call it. Horrifying. Yeah, we don't know what that means yet, but it's horrifying. We know that. Just put Ansarek in there. She sucks. These caves have garnered the attention of the Earthen, the Goblins, and the Arathi. The Earthen want to examine the strange energies emitted from the Shuddering Hollow, and Goblins want the tremendous loot that will no doubt be found down the drain. Drain in capital letters. So I think that's like a actual thing.
They have named it the Drain.
The Drain. Yeah, I like that. And the Arathi are keen to eliminate the threat which lurks in the drowned layer. So those are your 3 cave-like holes that you're going to have to explore. The only thing we don't know about these is, are they instanced? Are they world events? I mean, they say they're events. Does that mean, like, what does that mean? I don't know at this point. It could be a lot of people all at once and suddenly, or it could be you've got to do groups, or at the very least you're doing localized instancing of those fights.
So
like
here's what I would guess
Yeah.
that it's going to be. I heard in an interview that it was compared to by I forgot the guy's name, Mark something. He's one of the ones who's doing a lot of work on this Goblin content. Um, he compared the giving the flame blessed iron to the different factions here that you mentioned, the goblins, the Arathi, and the earthen. He compared it to what's going on right now in Spiderland in Ashkahet, where you unlock a weekly thing and you decide every week, who am I going to help, because you have the different spider lieutenants or whatever they're called, that you can help in Ajkahet right now every week. You
Right.
make a choice, and then that unlocks some things for you to do to assist them, and you get reputation for that particular faction.
Subfaction, we might call it.
Yeah,
Right.
sub-faction, but at the same time, you are also getting reputation for the overall, um, thing.
Right.
Now, actually, now that I say that, I'm going to back up a little bit because that may have been a description of what's going to happen in 11.1 when we go to the Undermined. So I could be wrong about that. But I bet you it's still going to work similarly. Now, the question about what that means when you unlock, you decide, I'm going to spend this currency, the Flame Blessed Iron, to contribute to the cave that the Earthen are in, the Shuddering Hollow. What is that going to mean? If I had to guess, what that's going to do is all three of these places are going to be accessible, but filling up that bar and giving enough of the Flame Blessed Iron to one of those factions is just going to unlock some probably weekly or daily quests in that area.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
That would be my guess.
That'd be my guess as well. They do say it will include crests, or excuse me, I keep saying crests, crates, and various citrines, depending on the instance in which the player participates. So they even use the word instance in there, which makes me wonder how cordoned off this stuff will be. Anyway, one thing that says keep in mind that players must participate in the event boss fight to receive the promised items, and rewards aren't guaranteed to every participant. This reminds me of that zone where in Dragonflight there's like a battle constantly happening, scorched earth business. I feel like I've already forgotten all this, but there's that thing, and you could go join it every day, and it was for the horse people. I can't think of their names. The horse people with the body of a man and I guess they're centaurs. Anyway,
yeah.
They're down there fighting some eternal war, and you go fight too, and there's dragons down there to fight and everything, and it's all part of what's his baddie. It's all part of his storyline. Anyway, that thing was similar to this. You were trying to get these keys to drop, and then you would use the keys to go unlock the chest. I suspect it's a similar arrangement. You pick who you're fighting for, and then you go do it, and then you get your reward, possibly or possibly not, because obviously we want some RNG in here. So
yeah, that bit that you said about having to kill the end boss makes me think possibly it is instanced. Maybe you end up going into, what are those things called? Oh man, the word just left my mind. Where you go, you queue up into the little storytelling thing, and there's only like 2 or 3 of you that are doing it.
What do they call those? They started in Pandaria, and then they've evolved since, and scenario,
yeah. It makes me feel like maybe it's a scenario, but I could also see it, like you said, the constantly cycling thing that was in the Waking Shores in
what's the dude who's all
Dragonflight.
chained up in the middle of the in Dornegal or near Dornegal out there, and he's all kind of chained, and he's a world boss, and you got to fight him, and sometimes it's a quest.
Yeah, that Titan construct thing.
That's it. That one is more of a world boss situation, but it's also weirdly instanced. So if you've beaten him, he'll just look like he's down or gone, I think. But if you haven't beaten him yet, he's there. So at the very least, there's like a 50-50 instance where if you've killed him, he doesn't show up, and neither do these players that are fighting him. And if you haven't yet, he's chained, and you're there with 25 to 50 people doing your thing. They may do something like that. And then those things are timed. I don't know. Like, I'm guessing we're not going to see anything crazy new here, right? This is going to be familiar content in a new place, familiar reward system, and that's fine. I'm down.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is it's a 0.7 thing, right? Like it's
Right.
which isn't me saying that it's not significant content. I don't want to downplay it in that way or poo-poo it in some kind of way. I just mean like I don't think they're trying to make anything groundbreaking here. They're just trying to give us some content to do that ushers us into gives us some story that ushers us into what's coming with 11.1
Yep.
with the Undermine. That helps us give some more context as to how the story of the War Within is going to flow. It's going to move because the whole reason that we're going has already been teased, and it's because there are these big golden crystals that have appeared on these islands that were suddenly revealed to be behind some
Mhm.
terrible storms, right?
Yep.
And that were not being able to be seen before, and so we've got people going to check that out, and then I think that's going to segue nicely into what's happening further down the line in this expansion, story wise.
I think golden crystals are frozen Titan pea, by the way. That's my understanding.
Well, we know a little. We know a little bit about what these golden crystals are. Actually, I don't know if you've been doing the quests that Moira's Dagran, Bronzebeard, Moira's son.
Yeah. My favorite, by the way, low key, one of my favorite characters in the history of the game.
He's really good. I love his excitement. I love how they write him, and the voice actor is really great. Makes him definitely
That's really
feel
good.
like this
Yeah.
this optimistic, naive teenager
Yeah.
who is going out and exploring the world for the first time, and he just like thinks everything is going to be great. He's definitely not been hardened like because Anduin used to be so optimistic,
Yeah.
right? But now
Yeah.
he's in the shit, and he's just like he has been disavowed of any sunny ideas of how the world can be.
Yeah.
But Dagran is not. He's very optimistic, very very forward looking, and like thinks things are going to be.
And normally
great.
that would drive me slightly crazy, but there's a real genuineness about him. It's something I just totally
Yeah,
buy his
I think
vibe.
that's about the writing and the acting. It's really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I hope he continues to play a role moving forward.
But through that story, it's told us a bit about what those golden crystals are. So
yeah, and it's Titan pea, frozen Titan pea.
it really is kind of Titan pea or Titan blood or Titan energy. It's Titan sweat.
Oh, even worse. You're not drinking enough water if you got that problem going. Also, part of this is the new ring. This is a visible ring on your finger. They haven't had that before. You put your rings on there. There ain't no transmog in your rings. They just don't show up. But this is a ring called Circe's ring or Cersei's ring, Sice's ring. I don't know how you say it. Do you know how to say that? They said it in the thing, and I don't remember.
Circe. It's Circe.
Is it Cersei's ring? Okay.
They made an item that is the easiest thing to say. Circe circlet.
Cersei's circlet. It is very alliterative, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing I don't like
my
about
notes-
it's like very
I'll
Game
tell you
of
what-
Thrones, right? It's like Cersei
Yeah.
Lannister business, and bugs me, but whatever.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. In my notes, I put cool that you can see it on your character, but you'll never see it on your character.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it is cool that they've done this, and I hope it didn't take too much effort for them to do because because I think we're all gonna like look at it one time. We're gonna zoom in with our score. We're gonna zoom all the way in, and we're gonna look at it and be like, "Oh, neat," and then we're never gonna see it again.
Never going to care again. I mean, if they're giving me some cool glowy bits and some flamey bits when I've upgraded it and stuff, and like maybe there's a chance this thing plays more of a role, but
Maybe it'll interact, and my
No.
character will like Captain Planet style, like shoot his fist out and beams will come out of it. That'll be
ooh,
cool.
they already got the selfie camera. They could just tweak that and make it work for your ring. That's a good idea. But yeah, I get why this is. Some people are freaking out about it, but yeah, Bobby's right. You're going to see it once. You're going to go, ooh, and then go, okay, well, what does it do? What's my stats? Who cares? I'm not looking at it.
I mean, I can transmog my boots, but I don't ever notice them. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you'll see, it'll be visible, but will I ever notice it? Probably not.
I do a lot of naked, unbooted Zandalari troll transmog. I admit it.
Yeah.
The guy, he can be regaled up to the hilt with everything else, big fancy freaking Arathi shit, looking all flamey and cool and paladin-y, but his feet are out, man. Feet out, dogs out. That's how I believe in it. Anyway,
So
yeah.
everybody's comparing this ring to the one that was in the Dragonflight content. Did you ever do that with Dragonflight? Get the ring that you could do?
Yes, but I don't think I did. I don't think I saw it through. I think I kind of fell off of that.
Yeah,
and it's
I
not
didn't really
yeah.
like it a whole lot. And I think that's the sentiment of a lot of people is it wasn't a really great ring, and it's a little worrying and disappointing that it seems like this is going to work mostly the same way,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I did read some of the effects on the gems that you're going to be able to put in it. So for anybody who doesn't know, you're going to get this ring called Circe's Circlet, and you're going to be able to find, possibly craft in some way, but at least find gems that you can socket into the ring. And each ring is going to have 3 slots. And those slots will be able to hold a thunder gem, a sea gem, and a wind gem. These are the citrine that Scott was talking about. They're called citrine gems.
Right.
Each of the gems will be either a thunder type, sea type, or wind type. And so you can put one of each type into those sockets. So you can have 3 gems, and each of the different types of gems have different effects on them. And I was reading the effects. So you combine the 3 to make different things. It's a little reminiscent of what they did in Dragonflight, of course, very reminiscent of that. But also it feels a little bit like what was going on in the Mists of Pandaria remix.
Oh, right, the cloak. Yeah, I was actually hoping that some of this is that, because that cloak was awesome. Right. That was freaking fun, but it was also ridiculous. So they got to tone that back, I would assume.
Yeah, because in the remix thing, they could just do whatever and it could be ridiculous and unbalanced, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It has to be balanced. It has to balance with the gear you already have, the tier set bonuses that exist. It's got to balance with everything. But I was reading some of the effects, and they look interesting, like they might be worth trying to get. Now, whether that will be fun or just a chore, that's what I'm waiting to see. Like, it felt like a chore in Dragonflight, and it didn't last very long. So you got it at the end of the first season, and then you just replaced it at the beginning of the next season. And I'm just I worry that that's what's going to happen here. We're going to spend some time on that island building up this ring.
Yeah. That'll
be like a tiny upgrade for people like us who are doing heroic content and already have pretty good gear. This is a little bit of an upgrade. So cool. This is nice. And then you get into season 2 and then you replace it right away.
Yeah, you're not going to, because it is a slot, remember?
Yeah.
You're using up a valuable slot on your character.
You have to replace one of the rings you already have.
Yeah. That's an important thing to note. Also, what was I going to say about it? Oh, I just think people have a long-term bad taste in their mouth from the Heart of Azeroth, this necklace from BFA, and I think they are just hesitant to embrace a new jewelry item that you can add to and tweak, and because so far none of that's really worked out great. It's all been a little flat. Outside of that, that Mists of Pandaria event, which I hope they got those coming again, because I loved that. It was super fun.
They are hard hinting that Legion remix is coming at the end of 2025.
I would be way into that, I think.
They are strongly Ian has accosted one of the interviews I watched. He more or less he said it without saying it, right? Somebody asked the question, "Will a Legion remix be happening?" He was like, "Well, we're not really able to, say anything like that. I don't know, maybe, but if you look at that roadmap, the far end is a little bit fell green, isn't it? Wink, wink."
Well, maybe because they killed Tarion early on in that expansion and pissed everybody off, they could convert his essence into some sort of, I don't know, necklace that you have to wear, the necklace of Tarion. And that's what gets more powerful over time. Take my lore ideas, Blizzard, and run with them. They're great. They really work out.
Definitely fully baked.
You mentioned here about the 3 different slots. The ring will be available to use in all types of content, not just the Siren Isle. So this isn't locked there the way and we'll talk about them in a second, but the cars in the new Goblin City in the patch 11.1 are a very different thing. And you can't leave. You have to do them there. This is a case where you can take it with you everywhere. Whether or not you'll want to keep it for very long goes back to Bobby's point. And I hope they make it more meaningful than that. But because it does seem like a lot of work. You did some visual work. You did some systems work. You got all that going on. And if it's just dumb, then, kind of a waste. We're going to return to Plunderstorm. That's happening. We know very little about this, though. We don't know if it'll still be pirate themed. We don't know much about it other than people liked the first Plunderstorm deal. If you didn't play it, just so you have the basics of it, it was basically a battle royale mode in Retail WoW that is outside of Retail WoW. It's like a separate game you launch into. And it lets you basically play magical Fortnite in a bunch of ways.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing as far as the theme. Before I lose this thought, I wanted to go ahead and say I feel like it has to be still pirate themed, right? It's called Plunderstorm.
Yeah,
It would be a
good point.
weird name if it would be weird to call it Plunderstorm if it was like, I don't know, mushroom themed, like
Yeah.
but
I agree with that. I
But-
think it's a great name. They should stick with it and stick with the theme because
Yeah.
pirates are great. Everyone loves pirates. So
yeah, it's you're a bunch of pirates who are descending on this island to try and get rich,
yeah.
looking for all the riches, and you're trying to kick out all the other pirates that are there. But yeah, it's a battle royale. What's cool about it is that you don't have to. It has nothing to do with the main game in except for that it controls the same, and it uses the engine.
Right.
It does not care anything about your characters or anything like that. Everybody is on an equal footing. You start and you are all there doing the same thing.
Right.
You all have the same one or two abilities. You all are able to run around and pick up items that give you new abilities, and everybody has access to exactly the same thing. There's no everyone is on the same power level. Just like in a battle royale that you would play, right?
Yeah. They had a
and
three-man mode. There's some concern that left
trios
because,
is what they called it.
Yeah, the UI they've shown so far, it seems to be missing a button for trios, so people are concerned about that. But I don't know. Maybe most people soloed for it. I don't know. They probably have the numbers to say. And also, what was the other thing I was going to say about that?
They're adding a practice mode.
Oh, that's it. They're adding a practice mode. Yep. So
Yeah,
for
so
guys
you'll be
like
able
me,
to-
who I feel like I suck at these games so bad, like I'm not good at.
I'm
Plunderstorm.
not very good either. I played a little bit of Plunderstorm the first time it was around. They're smart to give it to tie a bunch of cosmetic rewards to it because it gives people a reason to want to do it. It was balanced pretty well. You didn't have to be great at it, and you could still get all the rewards eventually.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it just because I don't know. I just didn't feel like finishing it. But I know a
Sure.
lot of people who did not like the PvP aspect of it because that's the other thing. Of course, it's PvP.
Forces PvP. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's It's not PvP in the sense that you're used to in World of Warcraft. It's
Right.
when I was doing it, I hate PvP first of all. But I enjoyed doing this because, again, I didn't feel like I felt like I was on an even footing with everybody.
Yeah.
And so I was routinely in the top 10% of people
It's pretty good.
left.
It's not bad.
Yeah, so it's not like I stopped playing it because I was horrible at it or anything. It just didn't really appeal to me, the gameplay. It's just not my type of gameplay.
Yeah.
I'll probably play this one when it comes out.
Yeah.
And see if it holds me. They're going to make some tweaks to it, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Now we have this raid team that everybody always seems to have time to run extra stuff. Maybe we'll do it with some of them. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. At the end of our 3-hour raid, they're all like, "Hey, who wants to raid for longer?"
Yeah.
Or
who wants to do heroic or mythics all night until 4 a.m.? And I'm like, not me. I got a date. See you later. With my wife, by the way, everybody. All right. Let's move on to
no judging.
No, none at all. Let's move on to what we know about patch 11.1 and undermined the city. Although the D seems to be superfluous. It's weird. They keep everywhere I see the D printed. It's got either brackets around it or it's in the imagery. It's like hanging off by a thread. It's very goblin-esque. We don't know a lot. All right. Seeing the exact words of Ian Hazacostas, as it is literally all we know so far. He says this: Undermined is a city unlike any city, although he calls it Undermined. So I think the place is called Undermine. Undermined is like the...
So it's the name. Undermined is the name of the patch.
The patch,
and
right.
so there's a sense that they didn't confirm this in any interviews, but it was directly asked, and they didn't deny it. That they changed the name of the patch to Undermined as a sort of like tongue in cheek reference to the fact that this was all data mined ahead of time.
Oh, I see.
Um,
I like
and
that.
so-
That's even better than
yeah.
what I thought. I just assumed it was like goblins are tricksy little turds, and they're having the piss here with the D.
yeah.
But I guess it works both ways, so it's nice.
Yeah, so the name of the city is Undermine. Yeah, and this is a big lore city. A lot of people are really excited about it because it's been talked about since basically I think the beginning. It might have even been talked about in Warcraft 3 when goblins were first introduced. I don't know.
Yeah, could have been, but if you're, I'm excited because Blizzard has so far done a really good job of making me interested in races I had previous no interest in, and that happened with this expansion. It happened with Don't Take Candle. I can't think of their names all of a sudden.
Oh, the kobolds.
The kobolds, jeez. The kobolds just throw away freaking mobs that are funny because they say no take candle. Ha ha ha. They got a candle on their head. Like they're just a meme race for the longest time and for 20 years in this game. And now suddenly I'm doing stuff for them. I've got stories about them. I kind of really like a couple of these characters. Some of their quest lines were my favorites in the expansion. Suddenly I like kobolds. So, hey, I'm ready for more goblin love. Let's go.
Let's not forget the original example of Blizzard turning a sort of meme race into a main thing, and that's the Pandaren.
Oh yeah, it's probably
I mean,
the
that was
best
just
example.
like some joke. It was an April Fool's joke that what Samwise
Didier?
made some art for.
Yeah.
Yeah, Samwise Didier made some art for that was like it was the noodle people you could call and have a food noodles like Chinese food delivered to you or something like that, and it was the Pandaren Express or something like that.
I mean, I guess we learned later that he had real love for that as a possible race down the road. Like he was always pushing for it, but it was like, well, it doesn't fit, isn't this and that or whatever. And then I think Stormstout though was a character in 3.
Oh, was he? Okay.
But he was I mean, we didn't know anything about any other Pandarens.
Yeah, that's right. He was just this mysterious panda guy. Like, where does he from? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
That's weird.
So the idea of taking it and exploding it out to be an entire expansion, a playable race, a new class in the monks, all that kind of stuff, that seemed insane at the time. And I remember being at BlizzCon in 2011 when it was announced, and players were like, are you serious? We're doing a panda expand? Like, people were mad. And then it ended up being
comparing it to Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, because it was the same time era.
I mean, it was basically Kung Fu Panda, but
kind of was. And the timing was bad because that movie was out the year before or whatever it was. And then they made one of the greatest expansions this game will ever see.
Yeah.
And now they're beloved. So give the goblins a chance or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm giving the goblins a chance because I don't like goblins.
Nope.
I do not like.
I like
goblins.
them more than I like gnomes, but I don't like them very much either.
They're annoying to me. They seem very one note, one dimensional. That's changed a little bit in this expansion, The War Within. There's definitely some interactions you have with the goblins that made me think like, oh, okay, wait a minute, this is actually interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Getting rid of Gazlo as the leader was definitely a plus.
Yeah.
We got rid of Gazlo, I think, in Shadowlands.
He was great in Heroes of the Storm, though. Gazlo's awesome.
But he was just the worst. Every cinematic he was ever in, I was like, oh my god, what is this guy?
Yeah.
But
I get it.
And but he's gone. Well, he's actually coming back, right? So he's going to be the last boss. In
In fact, this is how Ian said it. He says, standing as a testament to the intelligence and creativity of the goblins as masters of technology and alchemy, referring to the city. As our adventures continue, we will learn more about goblin culture than ever before. And this is straight from that video we watched. What's important to them? Well, what problems are they trying to solve? He asks. What are they capable of as a society? Everything that makes them truly unique beyond the humor and explosions, although just to be clear, there will be a lot of explosions. You will arrive in the Undermine that has been plunged into conflict between the 4 major goblin cartels, Steamweedle, Blackwater, Bilgewater, and of course the Venture Company. Again, this is a place where you're going to pick sides to do jobs, to get rep, to get reward.
This is what I was talking about earlier when I said that it's like the spider thing. I was wrong about that being about the island that we're going to. This is definitely about the Undermine. You're gonna pick every week you're going to pick one of these cartels to help
Yeah.
and increase your standing with them. And for rewards, it'll be like transmog stuff, whatever.
Yeah. Then he described the drive system, which is DRIV, stands for something, and I forgot what it was. It stood for something funny.
Oh, I don't remember what it is. I didn't know that they actually spelled out what it stands
They
for.
may not have, but it's definitely an acronym, and or an initialism at least. Oh, no, acronym means you can say it, right? No, initialism is when you can say.
An acronym is a word. It's a
word, and it breaks up into other words.
Yeah, it's initials that can be pronounced as a word. Like scuba is an acronym.
That's right. FBI, everyone thinks is an acronym. It isn't. FBI,
but that's an
is
initialism because you have to say the letters.
See, you all came here thinking we were talking about WoW and shit. You learned something today, listeners. Look at that.
Linguistics and language.
Fantastic. I'm glad we were here for this. Also, we're getting a new dungeon, Operation Floodgate, with a new mythic rotation, which means we're going to include Motherlode, Mechagon Workshop, and Theater of Pain. Man, am I the only person that liked Motherlode? I liked that dungeon.
I liked it. I thought it was fine. We actually know what the full rotation is going to be. I have those ones listed there because at the time it was not clear what the extras were going to be. So every Mythic Plus season, what they do is they take 4 of the dungeons from the current expansion, and then the other 4 dungeons are usually something from previous expansions.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it's they have one of there are only 3 dungeons from previous expansions, and those are the 3: Motherlode, Mechagon Workshop, and Theater of Pain. The 4th one that is going to be added is the new dungeon that's being added in this expansion, which is Operation Floodgate.
Sure.
So
what I hope, they've announced new delves as well, and what I really hope from these is 2 things. I need a change of spider stuff, like no more spider stuff. I've seen enough.
Apparently, there's going to be 2 new delves
Yeah.
in the Undermine that are going to add to it. They're going to be goblin focused, of course. Apparently, they're going to add some goblin stuff to the current delves as well. That's what it sounded like they were saying, but I don't know what that means.
Oh, refresh what those do if there's a little added. I actually kind of
like maybe
that.
some goblin stories. You know how each of the delves has multiple stories? Maybe they mean that there's going to be a goblin story added to them.
Yeah, which includes like mechanical changes, and maybe how you go through it is different. It's one of the things I like about those, obviously, is the variety. So maybe adding more variety to those will freshen those up a little bit. But usually what I hate about that is hoping it's the new one, and it turns out to be, no, it's the candle guy doing candle stuff again. Have fun.
Well, you can see what it's called before you go in.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really? Does it tell you?
Yeah, the name of the story is in the interface. You know, when you walk up to the door of the delve, it'll pop up with the thing telling you choose what tier you want to do, and then it tells you what the rewards will be.
I'm so focused on the chests and the extra chest and all that I've never noticed that they tell you the story. I had no idea.
Well, don't feel too bad because it took me a while until I was trying to fill out the Delver's journey, the meta achievement. You have to go through and do all the different stories for all the different delves.
Yeah.
And so I was getting annoyed because I would get into the delve and I'd be like, this story has a name. And once you're in the delve, there's nowhere in the interface that tells you like what the name of the delve story you're doing is.
Right.
It's like, how do people even know
right.
what the story is? And then I realized that it's in the interface. When you pop up before you click to enter, it says in there what the name of it is.
Expecting players to read. What is this game? Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I don't know. But they're also adding with the new delves. I'm excited about this. A new Zekvir style end to the delve story with the next patch.
I think Zekvir will be or not Zekvir, but its equivalent will be like a big old, I don't know, like a mutated goblin with like guns on his arms and shit like that. That'd be cool.
Maybe it'll be like a black blood mutated goblin or something like that.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
Also, let's get those higher tiers going and give me some worthy rewards. I'm tired of looking at top tier and going, well, there's really no reason for me to run this right now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, give me a reason. New raid, Liberation of Undermine. I almost said Lubrication of Undermine. That's a very different game. Don't go play that. The Liberation of Undermine makes sense. It's built into the new zone, and we know nothing about this raid other than expect goblins and a bunch of culminating story from the questing you're going to be doing in the zone. And I'm very much looking forward to us getting where we need to get with Queen Butthole and get over there and do a new thing. It'll be great.
Me too. I'm excited about the raid. Not only will I get to kill Gazlo, the goblin I hate the most, but I will. We're also, the whole thing is you are going through Undermine, and then you're working your way to the casino.
Mm-hmm.
The Galagio is what they call it.
Yeah.
I think raiding in a casino. Oh, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
I hope I hope one of the bosses is a slot machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
I'm
a big fan of that particular motif. Like I like my favorite stuff in Final Fantasy 14 is that casino level. I forgot the name of it. It's basically a whole zone that's essentially a vacation casino. And I don't know why I like that as a backdrop. I like it for my zombies, my end times, my Fallout, my, whatever. Like it's a little like what's the big floating barge they put in Thousand Needles after the flood? The Goblin
right
Steamweedle cartel something boat unit. I want like that, more of that. But actually have it be big and cool. Anyway, Liberation of Undermine coming your way. We are excited about that. Which leads us directly.
I'm sure there will be a lot more to say about this in a future episode. There's not a lot for 11.1. They're pretty focused on 0.0.7 right now.
Yep, for sure. Well, that takes us straight into this.
You think you know power?
Well, Sargeras, I think that's who that is. Or that might be Yogg Saron. I can't remember who I captured. We do. Let's talk about some hardcore stuff. A little bit more about this Queen Ansarek fight. So last night we as I mentioned before, we finally got Court down, and that felt great. Silken Court.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that on Heroic, then it's one of my favorite fights. I actually really like it. It's fun. It takes forever.
It's basically the Heroic version of Silken Court is pretty much exactly the same as the normal version, just harder.
Yeah.
It used to be a little bit different, but they've all the differences between normal and Heroic, they took them out.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's just more health and more damage like you expect. But I agree with you. It was good that they did that, because that is the Silken Court is a master class in encounter design.
Yep.
In World of Warcraft raiding. It's such a great fight. It's got lots of unique mechanics, lots of ways that everybody has to work together. It's not too punishing, but it's just punishing enough. It's a really good fight.
Yeah, it's awesome. I even though we got real close many times, wiped many times, I never went, oh, this slog, I have to do it again. It never felt like that. It always just felt like, nope, let's do it. All right, we're at the pizza phase. Sweet, that's kind of fun. Let's dodge around these stupid webs. Let's do this other thing.
But but you know what fight does feel like every time you wipe, you have no freaking idea what is going on?
Yeah, tell me which one.
Queen Ansarek.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, we got in there. She's kind of easy on normal. Like I think we two-shotted her on normal or something in her first time through there.
So
it was like nothing. It was no big deal. We just kind of knew what to do. We have raid leader Tanner knew what to tell us. We just knew what to do. But Heroic isn't messing around. Right off the bat, the first phase is all about making Bobby and I as tank and main tank and backup tank dead. It's just, that's the design, is to kill us.
Yeah, it's punishing to tanks. I think last night while we were doing it, I more than once said, seriously, Blizzard, you spent this whole raid like giving tanks a cozy little bed to sleep in while everybody else had to do the fight. And us tanks, we were just like, all right, taunt. Oh, you accidentally didn't taunt? No, don't worry
It's
about it. You
okay.
can taunt next time.
Oh, I
did
taunted too early. Can you give me 8 seconds? Here, now you can
Yeah.
have him back, like that.
Oh, do you mind if, hey, Scott, do you mind if you keep tanking for a little while I go over here and help the DPS interrupt stuff? Oh, well, I'm going to sit down for a little bit. My knees hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm clearing
like,
webs and whatever. Sure.
Yeah, that was the raid from a tank perspective up until you get to Queen. And then they're suddenly like, oh, I hope you rested
Yeah.
because it's time to be awake. It is so difficult. I was looking back through and it was like, so there are different things. We're both paladin tanks. There are different things that we have to do in order to, and this is just we're speaking from a protection paladin perspective, but every tank spec has this. You've got your abilities that mitigate damage that you have to rotate through and everything. There are certain things that we're supposed to do. You stand in consecration. You make sure you have Shield of the Righteous up all the time and stuff. And whenever a big hit comes in, you need to make sure you use one of your mitigating damage mitigation cooldowns, all these kinds of things. I went back through the logs and looked at every time I died, which was, we never made it out of the first phase because it's so hard.
For sure.
Every time that I died, it was because one of the 3 things that I could have had to have lined up, I missed one of them. I stepped outside of consecration for just a second too long, and then got hit by, and the things that were killing me were not big, huge special abilities. They were melee hits.
Yeah.
It was just the regular melee. Now that damage is being compounded by the debuff that goes on the tank, but it's I could go on and on forever, I guess, but this is from a tank's perspective. This is a fight that either makes you really hone in, look at your abilities, look at how best to execute your job as a tank, and just fine tune your execution, or it makes you quit tanking.
Yeah, makes you never want to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
my feeling, have to do it.
Yeah, you have to do it. My feeling was through the whole thing that as far as we got, and I would argue we made progress because we got, the first time was like 4 seconds. Next time was like 8 seconds. Next time it was like, okay, we're to the nipple phase, the green nipple phase, which we're also not mastering very well. And that meaning, other people in the game are now having to, like, they get to watch 2 tanks bump into a wall for 10 minutes or for 10 seconds. Now it's their job because we're past that to get the nipples working.
Yeah.
And that I shouldn't say nipples, the poison blobs that you have to hit at the right moment.
Foam, I think.
Is that the name?
I don't know. Froth, yeah.
Spider froth. Gross. Anyway, we didn't have a lot of time because we were near end time, but we got further, and I wouldn't call it massive progress, but we made a little bit of progress. But it really is a wake-up call. It's like, yeah, you've been swapping and holding threat pretty good, fellas. How about this? And you're like, oh shit,
right?
And then it's just a matter, like you said, you got to just mitigate in better ways and faster ways, and use abilities you're not used to using. Maybe have them on keys that are a little more accessible. Like, you just kind of rethink what you're doing, and we'll get it. I'm not worried. In fact, I was worried at first. I went, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
It's still an interesting and good fight, I think. Even though it's really, really hard, I really appreciate a raid encounter that makes you, as a player, have to start thinking really hard and strategizing. I know there are some talents that I'm going to switch out. You and I will probably have some chats about like what we can do.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really interesting about this fight is that, at least in that first phase, you have 2 different. So most fights, most raid encounters, everyone has a role that they play, and every role, whether it be tank, DPS, like melee DPS, range DPS, or healers, you're all kind of doing the same thing. You just might be doing it at different times. So from a tank perspective, while I'm tanking the boss, I'm doing all the mechanics, and all those mechanics that I'm dealing with are the same mechanics that you, Scott, will be dealing with once you taunt the boss, and now it's your turn, and I sort of sit back and do some DPS and recover from what I was doing.
Right.
This boss is a little bit different, and it's kind of a throwback to the way raiding used to be early on in WoW, where you've got 2 tanks that are both important, but each of them have sort of distinct things that they're dealing with.
Mm.
Because of the way that the tank swap mechanic works, you have to have one tank who is going to be able to deal with Queen Ansoric's Liquefy cast, and then the subsequent the damage.
Not devour. It's like a food thing.
So you've got Liquefy and you've got Feast. And they do different things, right?
Yeah.
So Liquefy, when you get hit with it, it increases the amount of physical damage you take by a very large percentage, like a lot.
Yeah, it gives you diarrhea is what it is. Liquefy gives you diarrhea.
Yeah. It liquefies your insides, and then you poop them out.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad.
And but Liquefy happens. The first tank takes that, and for 30 seconds will take a lot more damage. So you have to have one tank who can handle that, who builds themselves in such a way where they're able to handle the supremely large amount of damage that they're going to be taking. Yeah. The other tank gets hit with Feast, which hits them hard, but then they have a healing absorb on them afterwards.
Yeah.
So they have to have slightly different talents maybe, or a slightly different approach that allows them to deal with the fact that they have a healing absorb now, and they can't be healed very easily.
And for those listening going, what's a healing absorb? Basically works like this. If you get hit with that, you get a deficit of healing that until you heal back up to the deficit level, you cannot be healed on top of that again.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Think
the
of
right
it like
way
a
of
shield
saying
that
it.
gets put on you, say for 1 million damage. You might have a heal absorb for 1 million damage, or 1 million heals.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically your healers, between everyone in the raid, between you and your healers, you have to put 1 million healing on yourself before you will actually be able to be healed again.
Yeah,
it's like a shield that you have to. Have your shields that you have to damage to bring down. Well, this is a shield that you have to heal to bring down.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept that I don't feel like I've seen in. I mean, I didn't raid Dragon Age. I didn't raid Dragonflight at all, but all my raiding experience all the way back to, the second expansion up through Icecrown, up through, BFA, I guess is the last time I seriously raided. Those, I don't remember this mechanic. Like, I feel like Shield Absorb's sort of newish,
Well, healing absorbs have definitely been around for a while, but again, they were always a healer problem that we tanks just like it was nothing that we had to think about.
Yeah.
It was they thought about it.
Yeah.
But now this is so big that we as tanks are going to have to think about it. When you get hit with the Feast, Scott, you're going to have to think about, I need to self-heal to help the healers out here, because they are focused on keeping the other tank alive, who is taking literally hits that are 8 million damage, which is almost all of my health.
Yeah. We were getting one hit if we weren't doing it right. One hit dead.
If you didn't have one of your damage mitigation abilities going, you were getting one shot. Yeah. It's a really punishing fight. But like you said, it's in a way, it was almost like, should we quit raiding?
Should we just, we were coming off this high. We took down Silken Court. It felt so good. And Bo went to pee. Everybody's just feeling great, We're like, we're going to have a quick break before we do this. We go down the little thing. She says her stupid nonsense, and we're like, all right, here you go, Queenie. We're about to take you down a notch. Everybody else is dead in your wake. Let's do this. Right. And then just wham. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Wham. Like, it was really disheartening at first. And we made enough progress though that I got my my groove back. I feel like we're going to be okay next week. So
yeah, we're gonna get there. We just have to tweak it. But it's a really good raid. I really like this raid.
Yeah, it's fun.
I really do.
It's really well made. Like you said, Silken Court is. I agree. It's a masterclass in design. It's extremely good, mechanically interesting. Just a fun freaking raid.
All the bosses really have. There are a lot of really good examples of good bosses. As much as we beat our head against Brood Twister, the egg boss.
Yeah,
that was rough, but that was a good fight. It was really interesting. It was it was a difficult challenge.
Really hard, but once you get it, when we finally got it, it feels. Once you get that one on farm, I wouldn't argue that we have it exactly on farm. We're gonna forget stuff, but we're close.
Yeah.
Then once you hit all your marks and you get all your, you get the spiders when they need to be, and nobody gets enhanced purple status and all that shit. That's a really fun time in there. Like, I hate the worm until we beat him. Now I love him and I can't wait to go back. Let's go. Let's get him.
Yeah. You want a good encounter that makes you feel like you've really accomplished something when you get it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, oh, I feel changed now because I'm able to there was Bobby who couldn't beat this boss,
Yeah.
and now Bobby who can beat this boss is a different Bobby.
Yeah.
Like,
You're a different man now. And
Yeah.
we all noticed. I don't know what that means. All right, time for your feedback.
Why, it's the town crier.
It's the town crier.
The town crier.
Time for your feedback here on the show. That means emails, that means messages on Discord, it means voicemails, all that kind of stuff. These are all possible. Theinstance@gmail.com, or our text line is 801-471-0462. And these questions, or these comments and questions, are both related to housing. So if you didn't get enough housing earlier, well, we're going to give you a little bit more. Turns out this is what everybody wants to talk about. This housing stuff is no joke. This is from an anonymous listener who says, how do you guys feel about a new profession in the new expansion? I'm thinking carpenter. People are going to need decorations and furniture for their new home. P.S. I can also see housing costing gold like an amount does. I don't know. Oh, a mount is what they mean. Sorry. Like that you ride in the game, not an amount. Anyway,
right.
he spelled it weird. Like a mount does, buy it once and it's yours. But I wonder if they're going to have different sizes of houses. Like, these are all things we don't know yet. But I also think that gold as your currency would be great. I don't want a new currency. I don't want house currency. Don't do it. Don't do it, Blizzard. I know you're tempted to have another currency, but please don't. Okay.
What would they be? Like shingles. You have to collect shingles.
It'll give me shingles if they do that. But to his earlier point, I think a carpenter would be a great little, either a sub thing or a full thing unto itself. You know,
I don't want another profession, but it would be neat to have like a carpentry table in your on your back porch where there is like a profession like interface. You know,
so you have a crafting table. And now you are anything you can make. Oh, that's a great idea. That's what they need to do. We don't need another profession in the traditional way and all of its weirdness that it is now, because it's all a little bit weird now. Give us a crafting table that we build, that we make ourselves. It's like part of our introductory to our home owning. And that's the place we can make our own furniture. We gather our own resources for it. Mm-hmm. And maybe you can master it and get so good that you're putting cool shit on the auction house that other people don't want to make themselves. That's fine. But oh, Bobby, that's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah, as long as again it's not linked to player power and it's just all cosmetic stuff. But people will for sure go for that. Like,
oh yeah, I'll do it. I would love that. I like making stuff. I'm a big fan of these kind of games, where you make shit. So let's do it. Here's another one. Hi guys, love the show. This is from somebody named Flash.
Hey, Flash.
Yeah, the DC's The Flash. He says, hey, guys, love the show. I've noticed something missing from the discussion on WoW's upcoming player housing. Plenty of people are talking about customizable decorations, trophies, furnitures, etc., but what about the actual building part? Placing walls, placing roof blocks, doors, windows, and all that. My guess is that many people assume that it would be sandboxy for WoW, and honestly, they are probably right. But that is my favorite part of player housing in games. I love Rift's player housing. I didn't know Rift had that, but I used to play Rift for a hot minute, back when it was relevant. Anyway, and I would love some ability to build like that in WoW. I would love to know what you guys think about this. Will we get anything like this, or are we living in pre-built condos in Stormwind and Orgrimmar? Cheers, says Flash. So ESO does the latter, what he's saying there, where they're kind of pre-builts. They're cool, and there's lots of ones to get, and you can get apartments and homes and mansions and palatial castles and all this stuff, but they're pre-designed structures.
Doesn't Final Fantasy do that as well? It's
yes.
like an apartment complex.
Yeah, essentially, they're homes that they're a little different there because they actually have a physical neighborhood in the world, and then you claim a plot, and then as long as you maintain
That's
your
true.
house.
Some of them are just houses, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of that going on, but in ESO and them, they have structures are varied, but you don't choose them, or you don't design them. They are just what they are. What you design is how they end up looking inside, what kind of decorations you get, buy, make, find, rewards, all that. If my guess is, this is just a guess, I don't know that the engine is yet capable of doing the whole, like, put my walls and do this. You may be able to get floor plan choices and say, of these 6 floor plans, I'm choosing the orc hut that looks like this. But I don't think you're going to get to, like, place your stuff and, you know, do it like you're playing Valheim or something, if I had to guess.
I would love that, though. That would be awesome to be able to, if you got like an acre of land or something, and you got to be able to build on it and make different rooms and, you know, like The Sims or Valheim or something like that. But but I don't know. I don't want to say I don't think they're going to do it. I have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah.
What I kind of, if I had to, what I hope is that I would like to see a neighborhood. I don't know how they would pull this off, what they would do, but I would like to see a neighborhood where when I go, I can see other people in their houses. Maybe it's linked to, like, it'd be cool if it was linked to guilds. Where like you're you know, because you got to wonder, how will they phase this? How would they instance it and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to limit it. I don't think they would do like Final Fantasy does, where you only have a certain number of spots and you have to, not everybody's going to have a house in Final Fantasy, right? Like,
that's my understanding, but I understand very little about it, but my understanding is that they are hotly in demand, and if you have one, you need to go and do things in it, or else it gets put up on the market and someone else can take it, which seems
there's a limited number.
Yeah, there's this artificial scarcity there that's a combination of both you're instanced into something, but also it's a physical entity in the world sort of thing.
Right, and I don't want that to happen. I want everybody to be able to have a house, and I'm sure that's what Blizzard wants too, and that's what they're going to do. But is there a way to accomplish that where everyone has a house, but also you're in a neighborhood somehow? It'd be cool, like I said, and so like guilds, like maybe your whole guild has this instanced neighborhood.
Yeah.
That when you phase into it or you enter an instance or something like that, you can see other people. It'd be a way to accomplish, sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, which is player housing and guild halls, right? That would be cool.
Yeah.
Because I do want there to be I want to be able to show off my house, but I don't want to do the dumb thing that Garrisons did, where I'm like, hey, let's have a party and come over to my garrison.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
But it'd be nice if it was a neighborhood and you're walking down to your house, I can see Scott's house across the street. Hey, look, there's Scott's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if they have to do a little fakery to make that work from a, you know, just a server standpoint or whatever, but it would be really great to have a sense that you have neighbors and there's a real physicality to all of that.
Yeah.
You can do a lot to magician that to make it feel good, but not be a tax on the server, or, you know, too many people in one place, or all the problems you run into. We don't know any of this, all speculation, obviously, but, you know, I like where Flash's head is at, and I like where Bobby's head is at. You know what? I like where all our heads at right now.
Oh, but what if your neighbor what if you have a goblin neighbor?
Oh, shit. What if it's a goblin neighbor? It's got an old jalopy on the yard, you know.
They've got like these flamingos on the lawn and giant neon signs across the street. Oh no, we need a HOA.
HOA. I have one. I hate him, but you know what? You're making a good argument for it. But that means we got to pay some monthly gold, and F that.
Yeah.
Or false.
Oh, see, we're starting to realize why HOAs are terrible, because it would be I would want the HOA covenant to say no goblins.
I know. I got reported for a rose bush that wasn't mine. And the person that it belongs to is in a part of the HOA where it's the HOA is supposed to take care of the rose bush.
Oh.
Our house, if it was my rose bush, I'm meant to, but it wasn't ours. Yeah. So telling those people that was a real chore and a joy. Freaking F that stuff. I hate it. Anyway, here's a final one from an anonymous listener. By the way, that was an email, the last one. This is another text at our text line. It says, you chuckleheads said, why does it say recorded live? How else would they do it? Unquote. I think it was a Bobby quote.
Yeah.
Talking about live music from that thing the other day.
Yeah.
He says, recorded live, especially in an orchestral setting, means that they are all sat together and played together and no retakes or editing, or in Scott's own words, live to hard drive. Or larve to hard drive. The other way would be recording each instrument separately, doing multiple takes to get the best one. Yeah, I assume when they say live, whenever I see a thing like that, my first assumption is it was shot end to end without any edits, and here it is. But it's being shown in retrospect. It's not being shown, quote unquote, in real time while you're sitting there, because they need to reach a larger audience. They can't match all your time zones, so why would they do that? You know, or Olympic coverage. You're seeing what was live when they filmed it, but because we live on the other side of the world of a certain Olympics, we're going to see it as it aired, but not really live. You know, it's like that.
Of course, this person's totally right, and I actually realized it after I made the comment. Exactly what the problem with what I said was, and that of course you record it live.
Yeah.
But it was at the end of our stream, and we weren't planning on sitting and watching it anyway. And so I was like, it wasn't something I was gonna. But yeah, you're right. I was totally that is exactly how you record it live. You record it being done live.
Yeah,
you know,
we'll eat a little crow here on the show when we get stuff wrong. Don't worry about it. You guys can tell us whatever you want to tell us, and here's how you do it: theinstance@gmail.com or 801-471-0462. Texts or voicemails, either one works on that. We're also now on Blue Sky, and I wanted to point this out because just before the show, I also set up an instance account on Blue Sky, and I know there's a lot of people running to Blue Sky. There's a reason. It's a pretty good platform, and I really like it. And for the first time in a long time, I think having second accounts for separate shows is a good idea. It's something people can use, and so we're going back to that. Twitter ruined that for me. I think it makes more sense here. So I set it up. It is called The Instance. All right, that's it. Just search for The Instance, follow it. You're all good. It's also part of the Frog Pants starter packs that I set up on my account. Speaking of which, that's The Scott Johnson, and you can find Bobby at Bobby Franks. It's that simple. The Scott Johnson, Bobby Franks, and The Instance. It's made it real simple for everybody. It's also on our website if you get lost, so you can go check that out. I think it's going to do it for us today. Although we have a handful of rad new patrons to welcome to the show, Bobby. I'm going to name these people off like the rock stars they are. Rincess Kitty. I don't quite know what to make of that, but I like it. Rincess Kitty. Maltinson. Mackenzie Smith. William Gwalney. I'll bet that's a European person. And it's fine. You can be whoever you want to be. Benius Maximus, that's cool. Spencer Webb, Tyler Klein, and finally, Alice Nichols. These people are awesome. And why are they awesome? Because they joined our Patreon at patreon.com/theinstance. It will keep the lights on here, but also it'll give you some cool benefits. So go check that out. That is The Instance over at patreon.com/theinstance. All else is at our website, frogpants.com/instance. Use it anytime you feel like using it. All the stuff is there. I think it's going to do it for us. Bobby, any final thoughts as we near the end of today's discussion?
Goblins suck.
They suck! Also, we'll be back next month with more. It'll be our December episode. And by then, we'll have our teeth firmly into this new island they're releasing. So we'll know what's going on there. And we'll report back on our struggles in being reminded that tanks don't get to just cruise by the final boss of a raid. That'll all be that and more that we'll bring to you here on the show. Thank you all for listening. Please keep your feedback coming. Keep it coming. And we'll see you next time.
Oh, looks like someone just got their ears caught in the audio cookie jar. It's okay. You can have another, and another after that at frogpants.com.
Nice!